All right, that's good. So for this session today, inshallah, the topic is exam classes 101. So first things first, how to get started with teaching exam classes. So the interaction that we're going to have would be sometimes through the mic, you can just unmute and speak, or you can just leave your message in a chat box and I'll check it. All right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
just to avoid people speaking all at the same time, so you can just raise your hand if you want to share something. All right, so that I can make sure that all of us can hear each other. So wonderful. So let me just share the screen. All right. So let's start first by hearing from people in a chat box, like what they hope to learn from today's session. All right. So it would be nice to see your expectations and see, inshallah, if I can help you with them. So in a chat box, please write what you. Thank you so much, Aya. So yes, I'd like you to write what you expect to learn in this session. All right, you can write it or you can just unmute and say it. Oh, it's a good one. So let me check. All right, can everyone hear me? Because Huda says that she can't hear me.
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
All right, that's good. So I think, Hiba, you need to check your internet connection. Very good. Different types of exams. All right. How to manage exam classes. That's nice.
I'm sorry for this, but I have a question. Is this session is recorded?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it is recorded.
It's recorded and it's live on Facebook. So you can watch it anytime.
So you will upload it on Facebook after the session?
Okay, it's live. It's live now. We are live.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. So good. I have some good ideas. Not everybody participated. All right. And hello, Marina. All right, very good. All right. So I'd call today's session an introductory session to the whole concept of teaching exams. All right. So I'm not going to say we're going to go deeper into like the types of exams and the skills and so on, but we're going to see how to become like an exam trainer, right? So that's the first thing. That's why I called it first things first. So let's go here. And this is a quick introduction on who I am. I am Badr. I've been teaching for about 7 years, and I've been training teachers for about 4 to 5 years. I've got some courses with Cambridge, some courses with LTTC, and that's when it comes to the knowledge I have or the courses that I've done. And I'm also the founder of Teachers College, where we provide like teacher training courses like TEFL and how to teach IELTS and such courses. So let's go quickly here and discuss this point. So let me also check. All right, somebody's asking about how to raise your hand. You can just check the, like, you can find the gestures and you can use them. All right. So let's go here for the first part. So as you can see, right in front of you, there is feedback from a learner who attended a course with another teacher. So a teacher delivered a course for exams, and then she was preparing the learners for the IELTS exam. But then after she finished the course, this was the feedback that she received from the students. All right. So a very important thing as teachers that we care about is when we receive good feedback or nice feedback from our learners. So I want you to read this feedback from the learner carefully and tell me, what mistakes did the teacher make? All right. So check the feedback and in a chat box, write what mistakes did the teacher make? Anyone?
Can I answer?
All right, so help with the first one.
Yes. Okay. Number one, I think she promised them that they will get 9. This is not okay. She didn't get enough information about the test itself.
Mm-hmm.
And she, her level wasn't good enough to teach this course.
Oh, hey, just help me with one. Now you're helping all of them with all of them. So the first one, the promise. Thank you so much, Gehet. So you helped them with the first one, which is she promised that they would get band 9. So we're going to discuss why this is wrong. So you've got 3 minutes, think, and type in a chat box or unmute and tell me what you think.
Hello, Miss Aya.
Oh.
You're mute.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I know. I'm just because of the event and because also people are still typing.
Yeah.
So I've seen the first thing. All right. So people are agreeing now that people now agree that promising the students to get a certain band is not right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. What else? So that's for the first mistake. What other mistakes can you find in the feedback? What other things did the learner complain about? We're just checking the worst feedback ever so that we can avoid it when we teach our exam classes. Oh, ouch. I mean, yes, this is absolutely right. So Marina said here, the students corrected her pronunciation, which is that's so bad, right? It would feel really bad if you're a teacher and you teach an exam class or something like the IELTS or something, or even any other class, and then you'd find the learners correct in your pronunciation. So for teachers, it's fine to make mistakes. I'm not saying that we're perfect or anything. We can make mistakes, of course. But if it's to the limit that the learners can notice the mistakes and correct them, then there is something wrong about it. Okay. I can only see Marina commenting. Okay, and Gehed as well. Yes. Very good. Hebatullah as well. And Amani, well done. Yes. Very good. Yes, she doesn't seem qualified to do this. Okay. Very good ideas. Oh, I totally agree here with Marina. The feedback is a must for those courses. I need, as a learner, I need to know whether I'm doing a good job or a bad job. So that's good. Yes, you can speak. Somebody's texting whether they can speak. Of course, you can unmute and speak. Okay.
Hello,
Yes.
Miss Aya. How are you?
I'm good.
I think someone told me that before you give anyone a feedback, you should to use a very good way to also avoid his to make him feel depressed or optimistic or he didn't do anything good. We should use a feedback sandwich way. This is by telling her that he do good things like 1, 2, 3, and also he miss doing some things also like 1, 2, 3, and she hope to مثلا and give him a very clear advice to improve himself at the end. I think that's not happened here.
Yes, I do agree, but she didn't even provide any kind of feedback, which is even worse.
Yes, so I think that's
it's not like here. Very good. It's not like she no. It's not like she. It's not like she didn't provide feedback in a nice way. She didn't provide feedback at all. She did nothing, right? So, yes. Okay, very good. So thank you so much. So let's go to this point here and discuss together. This would help us like see what teachers need to know before teaching exam classes. So as you can see, the teacher went wrong with everything. So the first thing, promising the learners to get a certain score band, right? Or like to get band 9 or something like this. This is absolutely wrong because you cannot guarantee this to the learners. You can't do that. So what you can do is you evaluate the learners and then you think, all right, so we can try to get band 6.5 or 7 or 7.5 or even 8. It's absolutely fine. Or even 9 if the learner is strong enough to seek such score. Right? So that's the first thing. And then you tell the learners that you're going to work on it. You're going to need the needed support to achieve this, but not promising the band itself or like trying to guarantee that they're going to get this score. All right. So that's the first thing. You cannot promise what you don't have or what you can't give. Then the second part, which is like underlined in red, it was obvious that she didn't know enough about the test, which is another thing here. If you claim that you can train a learner to like pass an exam or something, you need to know everything about it. Even something like, are they going to write using a pen or a pencil? This is something that learners would need to know. All right. So very specific details about the exam are required for you to be able to help them. After this, something that all of you agreed on, which is provide feedback. So if a learner submits a task, they expect to receive feedback. If they don't, they would be discouraged, they wouldn't want to continue the course, and they wouldn't be benefiting from the course, which is the biggest issue here in this situation. All right. After this, I found myself correcting my teacher's pronunciation, which is another thing. So when you think about something like the IELTS, the pronunciation is one of the criteria of assessment in the speaking. So if the teacher is not providing an accurate model for the learners, then how are they going to help the learners? And then this means that the learners wouldn't be getting the needed score when it comes to the pronunciation criterion, right? And then after this, I didn't get the chance to practice speaking. So that's another thing. So if I didn't practice, so we always say that practice makes perfect. So if I didn't get the chance to practice something, how can I go to the exam and do it or practice doing it for the first time in the exam? So that's another thing. And this is also connected to feedback. So it seems like the teacher did not provide feedback for writing or for speaking, right? So and of course, the result that you'd get would be the learners asking for a refund, which is they deserve to get. I mean, that's their right. Okay, so this would take us to the point to think about these complaints and transfer them into this kind of idea. So receiving like negative feedback is not the end of the world. But if we don't learn from it, then it's the end of the world. We need to learn from it. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to try to look at those complaints in kind of a positive manner, right? So let's take a quick look at what us teachers need to know before teaching exam classes. The first thing, general information about the text. About the test. So, for example, you know that IELTS was like developed by IDP, maybe like about TOEFL, it's this way and so on. So you know information about the exam, and you know also the accreditation, and you know how to get information about this. So if a learner comes to you and say, or says like, I'd like to apply for a university and I need to get like 7.5 academic, then you should go and ask the learner, all right, so please contact the university and ask them whether they need IELTS or TOEFL, or maybe they could accept other exams, right? So that's another thing. Your awareness of this would very much help the learners choose the right thing for themselves, right? So that's the first thing. Another thing, which is the scoring, ways of assessment, so academic information about the test. So the duration, kinds of questions, and all those things, which is like, we can call it technical knowledge, right? I need to know how long is the exam. Okay, if it's like we have written and we have oral, so are both of them on like in one session, or are both of them like they're divided over 2 days or something, right? The exam, for example, is it going to be, am I going to have like an examiner asking me questions, or is it going to be computerized, like in a situation of a TOEFL IBT? You speak to a computer, right? But with the IELTS, you have an examiner. Also, what version of the exam do we have? Are you going to go for the computerized one or the paper one? And now we have the online one available as well. So all those things you need to know about the exam. All right. This is something that we mentioned before, which is equivalent exams and similarities and differences. And this would help the learner choose between this and that, right? So, for example, if the learner has like this kind of medical background, maybe for them TOEFL IBT would be easier because it's very academic, right? But maybe for others, IELTS would be better. Also, if they're like just traveling to another country, then they would need general IELTS. But if they're traveling to study or work, maybe they would be required to have like the academic one. All right, so that's another thing that we should know. After this, something that's nice I've been seeing, which is beautiful actually. A lot of people now are promoting for pre-IELTS courses or pre-TOEFL courses to help learners, right? Because you can't just get a learner who is elementary, for example, or A2, for example, to start preparing for the IELTS or the TOEFL in order to get a really high score. Okay, so make sure that the student's level qualifies them to get the benefit that they should get, right? After this is something that actually somebody said, which is somebody said it in the chat box. The teacher was not following the strategies, and I do agree to this, because as you can see here, you need as a teacher to be like aware of the suitable or effective teaching techniques to develop student skills. So if you still have this concept that reading is just reading, you're not actually going to benefit the learners. If you just think that listening is just listening, you're not going to benefit the learners. You need to analyze those skills and also understand the sub skills that you can develop for the learners to get the needed score. All right, and this would also help you like see. So for example, if my learner is making a mistake with or making lots of mistakes with writing, so maybe the problem is not with the language, maybe the problem is not with anything they did in the writing, maybe it's the plan for the writing, which is actually another reason that when I'm training my learners to, or my students to write something, I actually require them to send me like a draft of the plan that they prepared. I would just ask them, so maybe you went wrong here. Maybe you could have developed this idea in a different way, which would have helped you in the writing itself. All right. So when you understand this, when you understand, for example, the importance of a sub-skill, such as like note-taking, this is when you can actually help the learners. Maybe the learner has a problem with skimming or scanning. Like, for example, some learners, you'd find them struggling with reading a text very quickly, right? So you give them a text and you say, all right, read it very quickly, which is very, very important in something like the IELTS, right? To get the gist of the task. So if they can't do this and they're used to reading word for word, they're going to take forever. And in the IELTS, like the passages are really big and you have like 20 minutes to finish it, answer a question, all of it. So there would be no time for them to read intensively everything. All right. So developing those skills and knowing why the students are taking so long to answer a task, knowing why the students are making mistakes with certain words, getting the learners who like rush to their phone to check the meaning of a word, that's another sub-skill that you should deal with or should develop if the learner cannot guess the meanings of words in like from context. So that's another thing. All right. So if you want to teach exam classes, you would also need to be very aware of, number one, the skills and sub-skills of the language. Number two, how to develop those sub-skills and also how to evaluate them, which would raise a very important question. If I'm teaching exam classes and I give my learners or my students some kind of practice, am I testing them or am I teaching them? Because the point in a class is not to test them. It's actually to raise their awareness and to support them and help them deal with such exams later, all right, or such tasks later. So just check the chat box real quick. All right, yeah. Okay. So management skills, which is very important here. So you might think that this is not important, but it is, because as you've seen the previous one, the teacher said, well, I'll get you to get band 9. She's not even an assessor. She's not doing, she doesn't know how to do this, right? She doesn't have the authority to do this, right? So management skills, by saying this, I mean managing expectations of the learners. That's number one. Number two, managing a course. So for example, a lot of the teachers, and this is another point that we're going to see now, a lot of the teachers say, all right, so the course is 30 hours and this is all the time I need, right? But that's not true, because it's a course and you still need practice. Good. So you need to make sure that you have enough time to check the tasks and to provide the required feedback and to support the learners. So if you think that you're just going to manage your time by saying, I can spare 30 hours, you teach this course, and the course is 30 hours, then that's not going to work. If it's hours, you need to be free for 40 hours to provide like extra 10 hours for support, marking the exams, and all those things. Other things, how is the course designed? Is it like blended? So you have parts of it that are self-study for the learners to go through and learn. Do you have live sessions? Are there recordings that you can do? The kind of tasks that the learners do they do them live or maybe on WhatsApp or something? So those are also important things that you should know about this. Also the payment and other things and the promises, all that, all right? So this would take us to the next point, which I said, setting expectations, which is why I do recommend having a disclaimer. So integrity is the most important thing for us, like to be really good teachers, right? So the first thing, the learner should know what to expect and they should know their rights. So for example, if you're taking a course with me, you know that you're going to pay this amount of money, but you also have to commit to attending on time and you have to do the tasks, and all this would be rewarded by just receiving a certificate at the end. In return for all these efforts, I'll be supporting you, providing this number of sessions, marking those tasks, providing feedback on this and that. And this is the contract that we have. All right. If anybody violates it, then this is a problem. They should bear the consequences. All right. So integrity is very important, as I said. And before you start anything, have a disclaimer and have the learner sign it, or not even sign it, just agree on it. okay, so that later you wouldn't have any kind of conflict. All right. So good. So that's another thing. Of course, yes, another thing in the disclaimer, please try to be objective and fair. So don't like force the learner to like handle everything or bear the consequences of everything. You need also to show what you're going to give them, all right, what you're going to provide, so that they can provide feedback later. They can tell you, well, you promised us to do 1, 2, 3, but you didn't do them. So this is when you can like make it up for them. So after this is another thing that's related to management skills, which is extra time for assessing students' productive skills, writing and speaking, and also providing feedback for those, on those. And then other thing, and this would be very effective for busy teachers, consider having different ways of giving feedback. So do not promise the learners to always provide like written feedback for writing, because sometimes you wouldn't have the time to do this. So maybe sometimes you can use marking code, which you can find actually on the internet. You can just write writing marking code, and you will find plenty of those. You can just underline the mistake and then write the code, and the learners can try to correct it themselves. Peer correction would be very effective, of course, with you following up and providing feedback after this. One more thing would be providing like oral feedback using, for example, WhatsApp. So you read something and then you open a voice note and you start telling them, well, you did a really good job with this. I can understand this. The coherence is all right. But regarding the cohesion, I mean, you should have connected using this and that. And you discuss it with the learner, right? So that's another thing. Maybe you would decide to delay the feedback and have it like or work on it or clarify it in the next session, all right, to give it more time. Maybe it's something that requires more time. So as we said, it's a disclaimer, it's a contract between the teacher and the students. So this is the teacher's part, right? Now let's think about the learner's part. Let me know if you have any questions on this part, or if anything is unclear. Okay. All right. So in order to, very good, wonderful. Okay, thank you, Amani. Thank you, Marina. And thank you, Wafat. Wonderful. Thank you, Aya. Okay. Thank you, Amal. All right, wonderful. So for this point, in order to look at what the learners actually need, we're going to actually look at some learners, right? So we have here 3 learners, okay, 3 people who would like to take some exams. And we have the description. I would like you to match the person to the problems that they're having, right? So for example, Ahmed here. So you can read about him, good, and decide which problem does he have. Is it 1, 2, or 3, and match it, okay? So I will give you 5 minutes to do this and write the answers in the chat box. All you need to do is like 1 and maybe like A, 2, and so on, all right? So you can write the answers in the chat box. All right, only Hibatullah answered the first one. So I'm still waiting for more answers. If you couldn't hear me like a minute ago, that's because I'm muted. All right, I'm muting my mic till you finish the task. All right, thank you, Dr. Shayma. Thank you, Alia. Amal, thank you so much. Khulud, thank you. Hibatullah, Marina. Asma, okay, May. All right, so those are the people who answered, right? And Noha, okay, that's good. And Wafat, okay, it's very good. Oh, I can see a sketch on the screen. Let me just clean it. Okay, very good. So thank you so much, everybody who submitted their answers. Okay, oh, more people are coming. That's good. Okay, so let's see the first one together, right? So for the first one,
will be.
All right. So as you can see here, let's read it together. Let me just hide the controls because they're covering the whole screen. All right. So for the first one here, we've got Ahmed. So let's read about him. He's a factory manager in Egypt, and he's got a job opportunity in Germany. A requirement to get hired is to get band 6.5 in IELTS General. After taking the test many times, I couldn't get more than band 5 in writing. So it seems like Ahmed is doing a really good job with, very good. So he's doing a really good job with the rest of the sections, except for the writing one, right? Okay. What about number 2 here? Let's take a look. So it's going to be no prior knowledge on a test. So no exposure to the exam. She's never seen it. So that's why, of course, she doesn't have the needed knowledge. All right. So as you can see, she's B2, which is good. And she wants to get band 7.5. So it's not, yes, it's not that, it doesn't seem that difficult, right? So with a bit of work and dedication, she can get it. All right. Or she can like seek getting it. Or seek to get it. So that's another thing. All right. And she's never taken a test. So with this one here, no prior knowledge. All right, let's go for this one here. And this seems like a parent, and she's speaking about her youngest daughter, right? So if you take a look here, she's A2, and like TOEFL is quite not very easy. It's not quite easy. So A2, she's gonna struggle a bit. So here in this part, she still have the time, which is good. So here it's just going to be low level in language, or at language, and also no prior knowledge on the test. All right, very good. So now we know the problems, right? So again, remember what we did with the teacher when she received like negative feedback? We transferred this into needs. So we try to look at things in a positive manner, right? So if it's a complaint, it means I need to do something as a teacher. If the learner has a problem, then this learner has some needs that I need to cater for, right? So what we're going to do right now is another matching exercise. Good. So as you can see here, now we've identified the problems that they're facing, and we're going to match those to the needs. So we have X, Y, and Z, and this is just what you need to do, all right? So 3 more minutes. I'll mute my microphones just in case if you felt that you can't hear me. It's because I'm muted. And I'll wait for your answers in the chat box. All right, let's get started. Okay, so Azza, Amani, and Marina, and also Asma, well done. Shnuda, well done. Okay. Okay, Nakla, Ahmed, and Sra and May, and Amal. Okay, Basma. Okay, very good. So let me display the answers, right? So let's take a look here. So check if you got them correctly or not. We're going to, of course, to discuss them, but first see if you got all of them correctly or not. Okay, so let's go for the first one. We're going to discuss it. Got 7 new messages. All right, Iman and Aya, Hala, Shayma, Huda, and Qamar. If that's your first name or even last name, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful name. And Yasir, thank you. All right. So check your answers here. So the first thing when we say achieving the score in one section, if you check it, this learner needs exam skills, at least for that section that he needs. Number 2, language skills, because if I'm not getting a score, it means I'm doing something wrong, either with the skills for the exam itself or the language. I have a problem with writing, for example, right? Self-awareness, maybe the learner is not aware of the mistakes that they're making, and that's why they can't fix them. And number 4, motivation, because he said that, you can read the last line here. After taking a test many times, I couldn't get more than band 5. So this learner must be frustrated. They wouldn't be happy. So you would need to work also on their motivation, right? But if you say motivation, you always find with it self-awareness, because you cannot be a coach all the time. It's not about motivating the learners and say, you can do it, you can do everything or whatever. No, you need to make sure that you are motivating them, but also keeping their feet on the ground, right? They're also aware of the mistakes that they're facing or the problems that they're facing. So that's for Ahmed. So let's move to Amal. And if you check here, she's got no prior knowledge on a test, but her level is B2, right? So if you check this point here, you'd find that she needs test awareness because she's never seen it before, exam skills, of course, and some language skills. Other than this, she's not frustrated, she's ready to go. all right? But even without taking the exam many times and maybe failing it or not getting the required score, even just for starters, some learners need motivation. So some learners some people are just intrinsically motivated, so they can stay motivated no matter what. And some learners would need you to keep supporting them and motivating them all the time. So also this is related to your learners profile. You need to be aware of the learners. You need to survey them once you meet them to know what they need, how you can help, and so on, right? So this is something. Let's move to Susan speaking about her youngest daughter. And she, if you remember this, she's got low level when it comes to English, and she's got no prior knowledge on the exam. And for this one, this is the most challenging one out of all, because here she needs test awareness, exam skills, language systems. She needs to work on a language, of course, grammar and vocabulary, pronunciation and functional language and so on, self-awareness, self-management and motivation. When you say self-management, the reason is, if you remember, it was mentioned that she's got 1 year to prepare before she takes, before applying or going for the test. So if a learner or if a candidate cannot manage themselves during this time, they're less likely to pass the exam. If they're not, of course, not pass the exam because you can't fail the IELTS, but we consider failing the IELTS, it's when you don't get the required score, or same goes also for the TOEFL and any other exam. If you're required to get a certain score and don't get it, then this would feel like failing it, right? So self-management is very important, because if the learner cannot do the required tasks, cannot stay disciplined, cannot like follow the rules of the course and try to achieve as much as they can or get the most out of it, then whatever you do as a teacher would never be enough. I think a lot of us teachers say that to our students. What we do in a class is merely 20% or 40%. You need to stay motivated, you need to do the tasks, you need to submit homework and all this. So it's the same thing, right? As we said, it's a contract, 2 parties, you're doing your job, the learners also need to do their jobs. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the needs that we've got. And as you can see here, I have the headline saying, how to cater for students' needs when designing a course. So most of the time you get learners maybe in groups. At the beginning, when you start like teaching exam classes, you would have maybe private classes, like maybe one learner wants to take the IELTS or the TOEFL or any kind of exam, lingua skill, whatever the exam that they want to take. And you would need to check those things. And if you check that, those are just what we wrote before, right? So we need, for the learners, we need exam awareness, exam skills, language systems, self-awareness, self-management, and motivation, right? So now we've got problems, then the problems are like thought of as needs, and then the needs, we need to find ways to like provide for them, right? To cater for them. So let's take a look here. Exam awareness, what can we do? For this part, let's just communicate a bit. So it would be nice if you just unmute, raise your hand, the virtual one, unmute and tell me what you think we can do with the exam awareness. How can we raise learners' awareness of the exam? Anyone? If you don't want to unmute, you can just write it in the chat. Oh, Marina, thank you. Go ahead.
I don't really know much about that, but I really think like they know the importance of that, and they have like the dedication and the consistency to work on themselves so much, and like how much time that there like for the listening board, the writing board, and stuff.
I'm kind of losing you. I can't really hear everything you're saying.
Now?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay, so I was saying like they need to know how much important that it is, and like to work on themselves consistently to get that score that they want, and also like the period of time, like you only have like 20 minutes for that. You gotta work fast. So you gotta be aware of these rules.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. So I get that, but I'll actually like put it like match it to number 4 here, which is self-awareness, self-management, and motivation. So it's a good point, but it should be matched to 4. I've seen, thank you, Marina, so much. So I've seen here an answer from Gihed Gamel. So this is a really nice one. That's it. Give them a setup session talking about the test in general. So simply that's it. You just, the first session, it's an orientation session. You speak with them about the exam, maybe show them a model of the exam. So like sample of the exam, and they can check it and they can like gather information. Some people do this using Kahoot, which is so much fun, right? So, and this is even nice because when you check Kahoot and you just write IELTS knowledge or IELTS, or you go do the same with quizzes or Quizlet, you're going to find so many quizzes that you can use with the learners, and you can just simply pick anyone and send a link to the learners, and they can do it in kind of a gamified manner, right? So which wouldn't be boring, would make, again, the exam class less stressful and more fun. Very good general rules of the exam. Good. So, okay, let me put this here so that you can see it on the screen. So as you can see, first thing is just what Gihed said. And another thing that Neglet said, which is presenting a sample of the exam and discussing the different aspects of it. Different aspects, this would include tasks, duration, also rules, and so on. Okay, so let's go for the next one, which is exam skills. How can we help our learners with the exam skills? Again, you can unmute or you can type it in the chat box. I'm checking both. And we have Omar and Amani. All right, so let's start with Omar and then move to Amani. Hello?
I think we can help the students with the exams, or we can test their skills in the exam by giving them some of the questions that can test the 4 skills, like, for example, the listening or the reading, or maybe the vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's a good thing. I would just kind of not fully agree with test, become to teach, not test. So maybe what you're saying is absolutely correct if you think about a diagnostic test at the beginning. So you give them the IELTS, a sample of it, for example, or the TOEFL, or whatever the exam is, and you do it first, and then with them you evaluate the results, and also from that you teach them more about the exam taking skills. So if you think about it this way, this kind of test at the beginning, in order for you to raise your own awareness on the learner's profile, and also to raise the learner's awareness. So this would be a brilliant idea. So start with testing first, and then after this, you respond to the results that they got. But we want to pay more attention to teaching. So, all right, Amani, you raised your hand, right?
Yes, I'm not sure about the exam skills, but like I think it's the skills that we need to tell them when they do a reading task. For example, as you said, they have a short period and then they have to find or to answer some questions. So this is something not everybody knows. So we must do show like pay their attention to something like this. This is just an example. I don't know if it's related to language skills or no, but like it's somehow related to.
Yes, I get you. It's like you being like B2 or even C1 doesn't guarantee you getting 7.5 or 8 or something like this, right? Because if you're not acquainted with the exam, or if you're not familiar with it, you wouldn't know how to deal with the exam once you see it. So I'm checking here some answers, explaining the problematic points, then practice and feedback. Okay, after applying like Omar's idea of testing them first, yes. So now building on the ideas. So we'll follow Omar's idea for building or testing the learners, and then explaining the problematic points, which is providing feedback on the test. And then according to this, you can actually develop a plan for the whole course, right? Or you can see what you need to do. Wafat should just put it nicely, which is how to deal with the exam, simply, yes. So that's correct. Give them examples of the exam by making them try a sample with the same time of the exam. So I would just use one word for this. I'm going to type it for you, which is simulation, which is a brilliant idea. All right, to get them like in the same setup as the exam and the same timing and everything. By exposing them to the 4 skills and encourage them to improve them. Well, that would go more for number 3, which is language skills and language systems. And then discuss previous exams and common mistakes. And not only this, analyze why the mistakes happened, all right? So, or why they were made. So we'll put here, by practicing efficient techniques for approaching each task in the exam. So as you said, exam awareness. So now the learners know the type of tasks that they would face. And then number 2, to see how they can approach these tasks. Good. So that would very much help. So for example, they know that when we have a reading text, we don't go and read it word for word. Another thing that they should know, which is when you start the listening section, which is the first section of the exam, you're going to hear like a lady or a man saying, the beginning of the recording saying, you're going to listen to 2 people talking about blah, blah, blah. You've got 30 seconds to read questions 1 to 5. Now you teach the learners that in those 30 seconds, they would need to skim the questions very quickly, maybe underline a keywords before they actually start listening. So this is the kind of exam skills that we're talking about. The learners need to be aware of how to use the time efficiently and how to deal with the tasks. For example, are we just going for the reading section, for example? Are we going to read the passage first or read the questions first? When we read the questions first, what are we going to read? If we have like MCQ, multiple choice questions, are we going to read the questions and the choices, or are we going just to read the questions? And then are we going to underline the keywords or not? After we found the keywords, how are we going to find them? What skill do we need here, right? So this is related to language skills, but it would also affect how I manage my time in the exam. Okay, some people would say, oh, task 2 in a writing is double the marks, right? And double the time, so you've got 40 minutes to finish it. So some people say, well, task 2 is more important. So according to this, they will make the decision to start with task 2 instead of task 1, because it's got more marks and they need to they don't want to be drained by the time they come to this task and start writing it, right? So this kind of awareness and this kind of awareness of techniques as well and practice of techniques would help the learners make better choices or make better decisions in the exam. Okay, so that's another thing. Also, if you're struggling with a question, should you stick with it and try to solve it no matter what, or just leave it and go to the next part? What should you do if you're listening to a set of points and you missed one of them? Should you keep trying to find it or just move to the next one? Maybe at the end you should guess it. Other things like, for example, if you're like transferring your answers, in the listening section, you have 10 minutes to transfer your answers. If you didn't answer one of them, should you leave empty or just mark anyone, right? And we have Husam. Excuse me, guys, if I'm saying names without titles, because I don't know.
Husam, yes.
All right.
Yeah, I want only to add something here, or maybe I want more clarification about this point, because what you said, I think it's related to the first point, is more rather than the second one. Because of course, if the students has the exam awareness about how can the answer in the IELTS, for example, if we take an example, for example, listening. They know if they can go to the other one and like that. This point, I think, it's related to the first point. But if we talk about the second one, exam skills, should of course students or candidates know what are the main skills, and of course how to deal with the exam or the skills into the exam by the sub-main skills. Like, for example, reading. They should know what are scanning, skimming, making inference, and the other skills or the sub skills. I mean, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course the same writing. What are the descriptors of writing, and how can they overcome any problems that they can face according to, of course, the rubric and the standards. So
yes.
I think this the meaning of exam skills. If I am right, am I right or something else?
No, I get your point, which is a good point actually. What I'm talking about, I can't say that in order to get a certain score, you should have one skill, because they're intertwined, right? They're connected. So your awareness of the exam, and if you check number 1 and number 3, and you have the needed level when it comes to language skills and language systems, and you know how to deal with the exam, then this is when you can get the score. So all of them are connected in a way, right? So one more thing, which is the exam skills here, I mean, how to deal with the tasks, how to use the time, how to manage yourself during the exam. Okay, that's what I mean here, right? So when we say exam skills, I mentioned here by practicing efficient techniques for approaching each task in the exam to make sure that I am answering this task within this time, with this span of time, that this is the time that I've got, and this is when I should finish the task, right? So it's simply applying what I know about the exam and using my knowledge of language, of the language itself, skills and systems, and also my skills in the exam, how to deal with it. Because some people, when you go to the exam, again, maybe they're C1, maybe their level is B2, right? B2, C1. But once they go to the exam, they panic. They don't know how to approach tasks. They don't know how to use their time in the exam. So this is what I mean here by exam skills. Another example, which is, I mentioned earlier that we have computerized exam and we have like written exams. So another thing here, and it's also connected to awareness at the same point, which is exam skills. How am I going to write in the exam? Do I type fast or do I write fast? If I'm not very good with typing, that means that I shouldn't go for the computerized one. I should go for the written one. If it's easier for me to use a pencil, then it's better than typing. So I shouldn't go for the computerized one. You get what I mean here? So this is what I mean by exam skills. Another thing, your sense of time in the exam, that's another skill. Your ability to skip some sections or some questions because you didn't get the answer without panicking while staying cool, right? Even if you messed up a question or something. All right. So this is here again what I mean by exam skills. Not everybody is good at this. And that's why we need to work on them. So a very beautiful situation I've seen, or a very effective one. Let me just get the name, which is I replied to saying simulation. So simulation would be key here, right? Would very much help. So that's for something. All right. What about the next one? Language skills and language systems. We're actually not going to wait for answers for this one. And this one would require like the teacher to be able to teach such things, right? To be able to develop their language, to be able to develop their skills, not test the skills, but actually develop the skills. So it would require like a lot of knowledge of teaching, right? So the last point here, I'm going to discuss it really quickly, which is, this is here another thing. So the learners need to be aware, that's number one, and they need to learn how to manage themselves, how to stay disciplined, if we may say, and also how to stay motivated. So the learners knowing that, all right, I have a problem with this and that, and I know that, all right, I'm sorry, I just got distracted by question. So again, the learners should know what they're good at, what they need to work on, how to do this, how to stay disciplined, the tasks and deadlines and all this, and also how to stay motivated. And when we say motivation, I'm not talking about pep talks and saying, you can do it, you can do whatever you want, you're the best, you're great, you have... All right. So it's not this kind of motivation that we're talking about. It's just remembering your goals and knowing that you need to work hard for them to achieve them, and you need to keep doing it for some time. And you might have some setbacks, you might have some problems with staying motivated. It's fine. Maybe take a day off and then try again. All right. So very good. Amani, you unmuted. I've seen some people unmuting. So if you'd like to share something, of course, go ahead. You don't have to if you don't have something to say. It's fine. All right. So that's another way of looking at it. So I'll get back to Mr. Hussam. Is it clear for you now what I meant by exam skills in this part?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's very obvious.
You're absolutely welcome. And thank you for your input. That was really good. It helped me clarify it even better. Thank you so much. All right. So that's it when it comes to the needs. So now we understand what the teacher needs in order to be able and competent enough to deliver exam classes, because everyone can, but once they put the right amount of effort in the right way, right? So teaching exam classes is not something exclusive for some people, it's for everyone. But once you develop the needed aspects, right? That's number one. And then number two, which is what the problems that the learners face, and how to think about these problems as needs, and then how to come up with ways to deal with these needs or to satisfy these needs, right? So these are two things that are very important. Again, the two parties, the two sides of the contract. This would take us to the last point, actually, or the one before the last, which is the tips for the teachers, right? So for this part, the first thing, which is never teach them to be students forever. It's your responsibility to support and help students be autonomous, to be independent learners. Help them analyze their mistakes rather than letting mistakes discourage them. So a very big deal of awareness comes from, or a very big deal of motivation comes from awareness, right? So if you're going somewhere and you need to take like you need to go for 10 more miles, you know, like, all right, I still have 10 miles. I can manage my energy till I reach my destination. But if you don't know, you would feel that you're just walking without destination, or you don't know when this would end. So awareness would help you stay motivated, because you know, all right, you finished that much and you still have this much, right? So that's another thing. All right, one more, which is help students acknowledge their systematic errors and work together to brainstorm techniques to address and fix any fossilized errors. And when we say fossilized errors or systematic errors, it means that those errors are repeated all the time. They keep repeating them. And this affects the band that they would get. So what should we do here? We have here two aspects. So the first one, which is help students acknowledge their systematic errors. So when it comes to this, don't feel shy to tell the learners, all right, so for example, you've got a problem with this, or you mispronounced this word, or you have problems with these sounds, or you make lots of problems when it comes to the order of the, for example, adverbs of frequency. So tell the learners, just being nice all the time, it's not helpful, or pretending to be nice, honestly, because this is not being nice. It's our job to correct them and to let them know where they're going wrong. All right. The second aspect of it, which is brainstorming techniques to deal with these errors. So people are different, people are not the same. So you would need to see or try to find the best approach for that learner. All right. So maybe somebody's struggling with words, right? So with vocabulary, their lexical resource, whenever they write something or they speak or something, the vocabulary they're using, is very weak, right? They're using very, very weak lexical items. All right. So in this point, you would think with the learner, what should you do? Should you read more? And he would say, no, I don't have the time. All right. Do you drive a car? You can listen to podcasts or something that would help you learn some new vocabulary. Maybe another thing, do you like writing on mind maps? Maybe you can prepare some sheets where you write together. So just sitting with the learners and actually involving them in their own learning process. You cannot dictate to them how to learn because they're different. All right. So that's another thing. Because it's not just their problem, or it's not just your job. Both of you now are partners, and your goal is to get that learner or that candidate to get the score that they need. So you need to work together. You need to collaborate to reach the destination, right? So you need to help them, think with them, you need to provide solutions, and they need to be okay with those solutions and able to apply them. So the last thing, which is, remember the teacher when she said she promised that she would give them, or that they would get band 9? It is crucial here to meet students' expectations to sustain motivation throughout the whole course. At some point, if you are delivering a course and you're not providing what you promised, at some point the learners would stop caring for the course. When you ask them to send you like some voice notes speaking or something, and they would be like, they're not going to be marked anyway. They're not going to be evaluated anyway. Or why should I do this? For example, the teacher just says, well done, very good. They do not provide me, or the teacher does not provide me with like solid feedback or specific feedback. So that's it. If you promise something, you need to keep your word. You need to stick to it. All right. So those are some tips. Now, from that, we know that so far, it's a collaboration between two people, two parties. I'm not going to say two people, because sometimes you can have a group of learners, right? So two parties, the teacher and the learners, and both of them, they have a certain goal, and both of them have some duties to perform, right? So one needs to work hard, stay motivated, try to learn as much as they can, stick to the deadlines and tasks, and a teacher needs to deliver what they promise to do, right? And they also need to keep learning. Because, for example, a lot of the people here, or actually most of the people here, are non-native English teachers, right? Which means if you're teaching IELTS or TOEFL, you would need to keep studying, you need to keep learning, and you need to keep improving your level. And you need to be like an IELTS candidate all the time. So if you're giving your learners like a task to do, you would need to do it yourself. You need to learn and analyze it yourself. Okay, so from that, we know the students' needs, and we know the teachers' needs. Good. And thinking about, if you remember, we had Ahmed, Amal, and we have Susan speaking about her daughter. So we have different needs. So when you think about this, would it be better to use a textbook, something like New Insight into IELTS, or another book like Cambridge Mindset or something like this? Or should you tailor or design the courses or the sessions to suit the learner's level? I'd like to see what you think about this. So you can write it in the chat box. Which would you prefer? Like using a textbook, or designing your own course or your own sessions? All right. We have Mr. Mustafa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, actually it depends on my students, because or it depends on their levels, because actually, but I wanted to depend on course book. Okay, if I have maybe beginner students, so I will tailor my my material, or maybe create my material for my students. But if I have maybe intermediate or upper intermediate, okay, so I should depend on course book, because I have many topics. But I think it's not appropriate to use a course book for maybe true beginner, because their books maybe depend on their language because they have background about English. But if I have a student doesn't have any background about English or doesn't know their letters, so I should depend on my material that I created.
Yes. All right.
Nice.
That's a nice approach. All right. Yes. Wafat, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I can use a specific topic, a specific text according to what I need. I use it in my way, in my own way, how to explain it, how to use it. I think there's different ways to use the same text according to my students' needs.
Okay, this answer is like really, really good. And the reason it's good is not just because you're using a textbook, but you're also adapting it. So you have the perks of both of them, which is designing it and making sure that it's suitable for the learners, and also not wasting a lot of time in preparation, because if you design it from scratch, it's going to take a lot of time. Yes. Right? But if you have a book and then you start adding to it and maybe taking out some parts and so on, this would be like a very, very good solution. Mr. Mustafa, you've got, I think, another thing, or your hand is just...
No.
All right, cool. Okay, no problem. So good. I'll just check more answers here. Tailored course. I can use some textbooks. So that's, again, the same idea. That's nice. Thank you, Iman. Designing is better. Yes. However, it is a risk that needs a high sense of responsibility and proficiency. That's a beautiful answer. And not only this, you need to be very good at doing this, like being a very strong instructional designer, and to be a very strong, aware teacher that knows what to develop and how to develop it and all this. Plus, you would need to be free. You would need to have a lot of time to do all this. All right. Plus, after you start the course, you would need to adapt things. Because I think if you start designing your own course, that would tell something about you, which is you like things to be perfect. And if you do this, you will keep improving them, which is great. But it's exhausting and sometimes unrealistic, because as teachers, it's like, you know, there is this thing, we prepare before the class, we teach the class, and then we mark the tasks after the class. So it's like, it's a full-time job. It's a full life job. We do it all the time, right? So designing everything from scratch, it would be nice if you're not teaching the learners, but then if you're not teaching them, this would affect your awareness of the learner's profile. So it's a bit tricky, I'd say. Okay, so very good ideas. Tailored course. I would go for tailored course because I enjoy designing sessions, but it's not efficient. It's not time efficient all the time. Okay, very good. So I would also say that when you think of your class as a mixed ability class, you would think you can't, yes, it's a full-time job. I agree with that. It is. So when you're teaching a group, for example, and you start thinking about like designing something that would suit all of them, this is very difficult. This would be very, very difficult, right? Because you need to think, all right, so for example, Mustafa needs to work on this, Amani needs to do this, Hussein needs that. And it's like thinking about all of this, it's like you would turn your brain into a mush. So that's not like a good decision, I think. So the best option for this may be using a textbook and then trying to add and like adapt it, right? But if you have like a one-to-one class, I think when you have the time, a tailored course would even be more efficient.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this would actually, the whole, like the goal for me in this session was just to raise awareness and for us teachers to understand the boundaries that we should have, what the learners need, what I need, all right, and how to have like a mutual point, right, where we can both benefit from the course, so it's a win-win situation. And another thing, I'm not pressuring myself, I'm not pressuring the learner. So, and also to get you to think about, should I design a course or should I use a textbook, or should I just have a combination, use a textbook and adapt it? So that was the main goal of the session, just an introductory session. And those are some things that I'd like you to think about. Hopefully, inshallah, we might meet again to discuss other things. So, for example, how to prepare a beginner for an English exam on a long run, and be careful with the long run so that they're not A1 and I promise them like in a month you can get band 7. That's not going to happen. We're not magicians. And then also how to turn a general English book into an exam preparation book. That's also very important, especially if the learner's level is not that high. You might need to use just a general English book that suits their level and then adapt it in a way that would make it more of an exam preparation book. And then also you can do this just by being exposed to the exam and knowing about the exam, so that you can know how to turn those tasks in a general book into an exam preparation book or an exam preparation tasks. And the last thing, how to design the most effective exam preparation course. So what the aspects, the things that that should be added, the components that should be in a course, how to deal with it, which parts should be ready on a website or an LMS, and which parts should be delivered like live in live sessions. The tasks, how should they be like delivered and marked and all those things. So that's it for today's session. And I hope it was beneficial. I'd like to see if you have any questions. Oh, the last question, let me get back to it because I forgot it. All right, which is the most effective preparation course. Okay. All right. Hopefully, inshallah, I'll prepare a session on this. Okay. Yes. All right, alhamdulillah. So, all right. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I will spare like 11 more minutes, or 11 more minutes or 10 more minutes if you have any questions. And that's it. Of course, if you have no questions, if Mr. Mustafa doesn't have something to tell you, then you can go, I think.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. So good. Thank you, Wafat, for the nice comment. Thank you. And thank you, Marim. Thank you, guys.
I don't think so, I mean. Is the lingo